Howdy and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. My name is Will Stone at Will Stone CFB. You can subscribe to this podcast on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcast at the Ineligibles podcast. Big win, folks. It's blackout week for A&M as they play Mississippi State. They'll be wearing the all black uniforms. We got black end zones with the script Aggies. It's going to be sick. I've got my black Aggies hat, my black eye patch Reveille shirt on, courtesy of Robert Barons. So I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. But we will get to the game this weekend in a bit. But a lot to talk about with regards to A&M's 16-10 win over the Auburn Tigers, and the way this played out, everywhere except the scoreboard, was a total ass kicking. I mean, the the yard differential, the success rate differential, especially on defense, obviously, but the offense was racking up yards and would just, you know, stall out due to penalty or several penalties, or you know, getting sacked on a third down with some blitzes, but just never could quite get things, you know, in rhythm. And I think penalties hurt, but I think sometimes it just kind of goes like that, and you don't have, I think we saw three straight games of scoring 40 points. And we're like, oh, this is just who we are now. We're just going to roll out of bed and score 40 points. I thought we'd score a lot more, and we should have. But to not have your best, even though you were chewing up some yards, and but not, parlaying that into points on the scoreboard. Your defense stepped up in a huge, huge way, played the best that they've played probably, since Mike Elko returned, at least against a power conference team. And they were lights out. And that's big because, Elko said in his post-game press conference, that's what what culture, championship mentality looks like, and I think it's important to be able to see this team, go and, light up Notre Dame on the road, 41 points. All of them earned, like, no pick sixes, no special teams touchdowns, like 41, tried and true points. When the defense couldn't get a stop with the offense, they just kept scoring. And that was on the road, and then you come home against Auburn, who's got a good defense, but I think we were capable of definitely attacking them more through the air and racking up points, but that doesn't happen. But your defense, they just flip a switch and just completely dominate Auburn from start to finish. We could have played 8 quarters, and they weren't going to get in the end zone without being on their own, on our 2-yard line after an interception. So in my mind, the defense only gave up 3 points, and even on that, like on that drive was the biggest play of Auburn's day. A deep pass, I don't know, like 30, 40 yards to Eric Singleton, who's a really, really good player. But in the moment, I'm like, okay, like Will Lee's like right in there, like he has his hand on that football, but so does the receiver. You're like, okay, like Ty goes to the offense, that's fine. But then I saw like another angle of it, and I don't know if the referees had this angle or not, or if the TV did, or if it was just from a different media member. But that was an interception. I mean, like, Will Lee has full control of that football, and it's not like one where they both have their hands on it and like that would be a tie, and that's a completion for the offense. But he picked that ball off, and that was a hell of a play. But even then, you give him that, the defense stands up. I think even had another penalty on that drive to extend that drive, but then locked it down in the red zone, held them to a field goal. Just, man, I think we start there and stick on the defense. Um, it's something that you know going into the game, and I know so I was at this game with my brother, and trying to tell him like my thoughts on the game and all that as it's kicking off, and I'm like Oklahoma sacked them 10 times last week. We probably won't do that. I don't think that's like first of all, I don't think that their O line is that bad. Like they're not bad players. I think Arnold is a bad quarterback. He just cannot get rid of the football. I mean, I don't know if it's like he just can't get past his first read. He just holds on to that thing, and then he just panics, and then he gets sacked. I thought we'd get some, like maybe 2 or 3, but 5 sacks. Torian York just had a hell of a day. The best game he's played in maroon and white, in my opinion. That's one thing my brother brought up about halfway through. He goes, "Man, 21 is just all over the field. He's making every single play." And he was. I mean, if you've seen the clip going around on Twitter right now, I may put that in the description because it's such a cool freaking video. But Torian York just like he's so smart, and Elko even said in the press conference that yeah, like he's not as athletic as an Edgerrin Cooper that we've had here. Like doesn't have that kind of straight line speed to like when he triggers, you know, he's going to run down anybody because he's just that fast. But Torian knew the play before they ran it. Like he was able, he plays fast because he can diagnose the play so freaking fast. And the defensive line kept him clean, but man, he was just going sideline to sideline. I bet Jackson Arnold's probably seeing the number 21 in his dreams, in his nightmares, because he was just in his face the whole day, and making plays, on the on even on receivers on little outside like swing passes. He blew up that tight end screen before the guy even had a chance. Just a all around, just hell of a day by your captain on defense. I think it's big to see that because I don't think that Notre Dame was his best game, and it wasn't the defense as a whole's best game. I mean, we gave up 33 points, but to come back and there's this narrative, and it's one that I didn't really buy into completely, just because it was so early, and I think there will be more talented defenses that Mike Elko will have at A&M throughout his tenure in the future, just with the way they're recruiting and all that kind of stuff. But there's a narrative, and it's funny because it's the opposite narrative with Steve Sarkisian right now at Texas, to where like so far the best side of the ball for this A&M team was the offense. The side that Elko does not coach. Elko's a defensive guy, and everyone's like, "Huh, that's weird. Like, why is the defense not good when your head coach is a defensive guy, but your offense is great?" Maybe Kalon Kalon should be the head coach. Like, no one's really thinking that or saying that, but it's a similar vibe with Texas, and not to to crap on them or anything, but what's keeping them relevant at all right now is their defense. And Sark's an offensive mastermind supposedly, but even the past 2 years, the offense has been good. It hasn't been elite, but it's been good. But the defense has been the superior unit, and now at Texas this year, it's even more so. Like the defense is still very, very good. Offense is struggling. We'll see how they do this weekend. But this was big. Not that anything the media says matters, but it was good for the people that cover this team and the fans of this team to see like, hey, this defense can be really, really good. I think we're all, in the first couple of games, you see us giving up, a handful of big plays to, UTSA and Utah State, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like if UTSA is going to go 75 yards, like what's Auburn going to do? What's LSU going to do? What's Texas going to do? And yeah, it doesn't work that way. And I think, like, not to say, oh, like we're going to go dominate every single team now because we did that to Auburn. I wouldn't go that far. I think they're reeling a little bit, but still, like we didn't know what the run defense was going to do. Like that's a big offensive line that Auburn has. They have obviously elite weapons at receiver. The quarterback is a really good athlete. You know, he can really get out and run, and the backs are decent. They're not great. They're not, you know, maybe even top half of the SEC, but they're good running backs. And we just shut down every facet, and they couldn't really run it. They couldn't throw it. They couldn't protect the quarterback. We you know, big tip of the cap to Des Ricks and Will Lee, and Dalton Brooks. You know, I think with Bryce Anderson being out, I think Bryce really does a good job of just kind of getting the secondary like into the right calls, that kind of stuff. And maybe York does a lot of that now, or maybe he just does anyway because you know he is your Mike linebacker, your captain of the defense. It seems like every play pre-snap, York is kind of he's making the calls. He's telling guys, hey, like this is what we're doing, this is what they're gonna do, all that kind of stuff. And I think you know they had it going on on Saturday. Like they were definitely getting into the right calls, executing. They tackled extremely well. I think only one missed tackle really on the day, and it was just physical. Like even if they allowed a completion, if Arnold got out of the pocket, they were meeting those ball carriers with force, wrapping up, taking them down. No extra yardage. It was just a hell of a performance, and yeah, and Ricks and Willie, they did a hell of a job on two great receivers, and especially Cam Coleman. I know we've all seen his stats by now, but just to communicate that here as well, Cam Coleman against A&M, he had 4 catches for 18 yards with a long of 5. Pretty good after he completely torched Oklahoma. So yeah, the defense is good. It can be good. It can be even better than it was. And you you look at his schedule. I'm going to get into that more a little bit later, but like, show me the best offenses on this schedule. I think. Well, there's one thing that we found out, and it's that Notre Dame is probably a top 10 offense in the country, and you gave up 33 up there, and at least defensively, not the block punt, but you had a bust on a wheel route, you had a reverse flea flicker that picked up a bunch of yards, and then a bad punt and good return by them gave them the ball at the 30-yard line, and they ended up punching it in. So they dismantled Arkansas. They probably could have scored 100 if they wanted to. They're really, really good offensively. You know who's not? LSU. Maybe Texas. I mean, thus far, we'll see how SEC play goes for them. But LSU is just crumbling on offense. They can't run the ball worth a damn. The offensive line's a mess. Nussmeier's hurt. Maybe he's better. They've got a bye week this week, and then still a couple of games before A&M plays them. But it's like a torso or like abdominal strain or injury of some kind in there, and yeah, that's tough. So as of right now, they don't look good at all offensively, because I don't think Ole Miss has a very good defense, and they really shut them down. Florida, I mean, god awful on offense. Take the under in Florida, Texas this weekend, because neither team can score very well. The only one in South Carolina is just boom or bust. It's like, hey, it's Sellers hitting a deep ball or it's nothing. They can't run the ball very well at all. They don't block very well. The only team out there right now, and they haven't even left their own stadium yet to play a football game, is Missouri. And that, if you're an A&M fan, or really just a a fan of you know a team in this conference or football or in general whatever else, watch Missouri after this week because they've got, I forget the order, but it's a 3 game stretch that I'm pretty sure includes Alabama, Vanderbilt, and Auburn, and I think maybe 2 are on the road, and then they have a bye week and then they play A&M at home after that. So they beat up on Kansas, they beat up on South Carolina, even though that game was a little bit closer. But they look competent on both sides of the ball, which not a lot of teams can say that right now. And as far as A&M's remaining opponents go, they look the most complete as it stands today. They run the ball very well. May have the Doak Walker Award winner in Ahmad Hardy. I'm pretty sure he leads the country in rushing yards with like 700 already, which is nuts. But so yeah, I think what we saw was very encouraging for this team's prospects, and you know, there's still so much more they can improve on, and it's going to be taking it game by game. Does this team improve week to week? Can they cut down on the penalties and things like that? Sorry, I've totally neglected my chat down here. So I'll check in with you guys and see about these comments. Do you think LSU bounces back hard after that tough loss? No, I mean I don't. The only thing that is making me hesitate about that game, about A&M playing them, is where it is. If it was a neutral site, if it was at Kyle Field, I would say A&M by 10 or more because LSU just flat out can't move the ball on offense. Playing there's a different animal. I don't know if it's been announced that it's a night game. It probably will be, but they've lost to Ole Miss. They still have Alabama. They still have A&M. They still have Oklahoma at the end of the year. It could be 8-4. And coming into the year, LSU fans are like playoff or bust. You got your quarterback back. You got a ton of transfers and and NIL money invested. Great receiver room, and if you can't do it with this team, when are you going to do it? And it doesn't look great for them right now. Yeah, so with JT's comment, we'll kind of switch into the offense. It's and here's the thing: like we've scored 40 points in the first 3 games. They moved the ball pretty well on Saturday. Yeah, as far as officiating goes, I thought it was just really poor all around. But I mean, it definitely felt like with regards to A&M, just like the one referee just threw a flag on every big play, and like I think 2 or 3 got waved off as not being penalties because they weren't. But the one on Mark Naboo early in the first half when I think it was like 2nd and 3, like we're pretty far in our own territory. We were kind of starting to chip away a little bit and get out of our own end zone. And he has like a 20-yard run to the 40-yard line. And I'm like, okay, like we're cooking now. We're about to go down and get in the end zone. And nope, coming back on a hold. I've watched it 100 times. I have no clue what the hold was or what it even possibly could have been. And I think it's bullshit. And there's things you can clean up and fix and not be as handsy or grabby, on run plays. But some of it's just BS. And I'm glad to not be playing Auburn again because the SEC is probably embarrassed about how they officiated the Oklahoma game with Auburn, and they were trying their damnedest to get back in their good graces, and it didn't matter. We still won. So, but yeah, I think those things still need to get cleaned up. The one with Crown over, it's been called back to back weeks now, where like if you're an offensive tackle and you're pass blocking and you just knock a guy's hands down and he falls, that's not a hold. It just isn't. And I know the coaches meet with the refs, before every game. They've got to get some clarity on that because if they're going to keep calling it, you got to quit doing it because it's cost you twice now in big moments. So, but some of the other ones like the Albert Regis, he's in the process of tackling a player, and the whistle gets blown halfway through his, suplex, and what is he supposed to do? Just let him go? Just like he's already halfway through it. I mean, like he's in the process, and they call that for personal foul. The lineman downfield, I get, which they don't call that consistently in college, but still, you shouldn't do it. You got to be better. But as far as the offense goes, you had, you know, 414 yards, 207 through the air, 207 on the ground. And if you just got the yardage back from some of those plays, it's easily 450, if not more. And then it totally just killed your drives in some cases. I mean, at one point it was third and 35 or something stupid. Like there's no play you can drop to convert third and 35. There's just not. But on the other side of that, like some of those third downs, you know, I thought they brought some more creative blitzes, or really just balls to the wall, just overload blitzes. Like, hey, like we're going to bring seven and just man up everywhere else and hope we get to you. And they did. And you tip your cap and say, hey, you know, you guys executed and got us on that one. Elko made it sound like they hadn't really seen Auburn do a lot of that stuff. So that's, your former DC, DJ Durkin, cooking up some stuff that A&M had not seen on film. But you live and you learn. But you got to get better at that. You have to, you know, and looking, well, first of all, I'll read JT's comment. His comment is third down conversions on offense being this bad has surprised me. 30% is pretty staggering. Imagine that gets fixed on Saturday. That's true. And like they haven't been very good at it all year. They're 126 in the country in converting third downs. And they're still just lighting teams up because they're so explosive. And that's the biggest area this team can improve is the consistency on offense. You know, Looking more like a well-oiled machine where, you know, it's not just the big plays, which they do sustain some drives, but I mean, a lot of them, like you're picking up first downs on second down. You're getting enough big plays on first and second down to where you don't face just a ton of third downs. But when you do, you know, especially in this game, think about how bad Auburn was and how like we were just in their face all day. Our average yards to go on third down was basically the exact same. That's how bad some of the penalties and other kind of things were. It's really hard to convert a high percentage of third downs when it's 3rd and 10 on every third down. So some of that is, the drive killing penalties. Some of it is the not executing and things like that. But the biggest place they can improve is to be a more consistent offense, just down to down. And I think, the biggest positive out of this group was the running game. Auburn had one of the best run defenses in the country coming in. I mean, they completely shut down Oklahoma. They rushed for like 50 yards total. Most of it was John Mateer design runs or scrambles. Le'Veon Moss had 140, on 21 carries and a touchdown. Especially in the second half, we could really just kind of lean on them, the whole drive until the screen pass the guy intercepted. It was just like 5-yard run, 8-yard run, 7-yard run. Like it was just, we were just gashing them, and just that big offensive line was just leaning on those guys. And that was impressive because Auburn is they're a good defense, and they're not the best that we're going to see. We're going to see better ones. LSU and Texas stand out for sure. And Florida's got a good one, but they're they're so big up front, and their back seven is so downhill and physical. To do what we did was impressive, and I think you're starting to see, like at one point, I think Le'Veon came out, and was throwing up. He had a stomach bug all week, and still got 140. And I think as Moss and even Ruben, kind of round back into form, like you know, Moss is what 10 months away from being injured, 10 and a half. So, so yeah, he's still getting back into his best shape. I think, last year Moss would have, you know, gotten to the end zone and not got down at the one on that first drive. But yeah, so I think that's a positive. I think what to look for going forward is uh, can we be a more consistent offense? And as far as Marcel Reed, when kind of rewatched the game, I didn't think he played poorly at all. Like during the game when I was up there in the stands and I'm like, man, like just not Marcel's best and yada yada yada. But I mean, really the worst thing he did was maybe just not adjust the protection calls on some of the blitzes. Because on some of those, like they just got to him so fast, there was nothing he could really do. There wasn't even a receiver to even get the ball to on most of those. So, and that's on the OC too. Like they have to, game plan for that a little bit better. Because I'll tell you what, Mississippi State, they're going to blitz. I'll tell you that right now. So that has to get better and improve. But overall, like he didn't have a bad day. Like his adjusted completion percentage was 82%. They PFF credited the receivers with 3 drops, and they weren't like they were drops, like hit in the hands. I know the screen was a little high. The snap was bad as well on that. Just all around bad play, bad call, bad snap, bad throw, bad attempt at a catch, and almost lost you the football game. So, but yeah, like I didn't come away after rewatching saying, man, Reed was just bad. Like he just had a horrible day. Like that was not the case. It just wasn't. So, against a good defense, I think the way the game played out, if you played again this Saturday, A&M probably wins 30-3, or 30-6. Like that's what it should have been on Saturday. They just couldn't quite get those conversions on offense. But I think what we want to see going forward is like just continue to clean things up, and because man, what an opportunity you have when you look at the schedule, when you look at what you've done already, and the makeup of this team. I said back in August, this is the oldest A&M team I've ever seen in my life. It is full of fifth and sixth year seniors on both sides of the ball in key spots. You have a returning quarterback who's been through the fire, who had to go on the road to South Carolina in a night game against a defense where half the guys are in the NFL right now, and then go against Auburn where you lead a go ahead drive in the fourth quarter. You played a great defense in Texas. You didn't play well, but he's coming up on, I mean, 14, 15 starts. Feels like maybe more. And then like defensively, you're just, I mean, the there's hardly anyone even in the rotation that's younger than a junior, and that's usually not the case at A&M. I mean, and when it is, in years like 2020, you lose one game and you finish ranked number 5. So yeah, I mean, and especially in the SEC with this schedule, which preseason we're like, man, it's tough, but it's manageable just the way it lays out. But you've already done one of the hardest things, beating a top 10 team on the road in Notre Dame. Notre Dame will probably win the rest of their games. I'll tell you that right now. They're going to go 10-2. I would bet a significant sum of money that's going to happen. But you beat them. You got that one. You come back. You beat a good, well, you beat an SEC team. They're good on defense, not very good on offense. You played very, very sloppy on offense, and you only scored 16 points, but your defense dominated. You win the game. You get two more home games in a row this weekend, next weekend against teams. I mean, the spread this weekend doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think it's way too high at 14 and a half. Most of the power ratings have this at like a 7 or 5 point game, or maybe it's like 7 or 8, but it's not 14, and that's what the Vegas spread is right now. But with LSU looking, like a mess on offense, Arkansas just fired their coach. You get a bye before you play Missouri, and we don't really know what they are yet. Texas has struggled on offense mightily. That game is forever away from now. I mean, it might as well be, an eternity away in football terms. But we'll know a lot more when we get to it. South Carolina does not look great at all. Like, they just don't. I know they thrashed Kentucky, but Kentucky's the worst team in the league by a wide margin. So the teams that are good, that are really good, I mean, Bama, and I don't even know how good they are. Like A&M could be better than them, but we don't know because they don't play them. Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, like those are quality teams in this league this year, and you don't play any of them. So it's a there's never been a better opportunity for A&M to get to the SEC title game, win it. I mean, it's all there. It's all on the table. So let's talk real quick. I'm gonna take a quick break, but I've watched some Mississippi State film. I've got some thoughts. I feel good about it, but definitely some areas where they can hurt A&M, and we'll need to bring our A game. But give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Actually, one more quick thing on A&M's defense before we move on. I I was going back and forth on a message board. I won't tell you which one, about A&M's defense, their run defense in particular. And if you like, I'm not Albert Einstein, but I work in data. I've studied a lot of analytics when it comes to football, and generally have a pretty good idea of what I'm looking at with most teams and most metrics. Someone was you know, just digging their heels in on A&M's yards per carry allowed on first down, and which was like 5. But that's an average. If you remember, the 75-yard touchdown run against UTSA was on first down. You could have, you know, 20 runs go for 0 yards and one goes for 75. It's going to skew things a little bit. And all I said was, A&M is not as bad as people might think in their run defense. Before last week, they were 26th in the country in rushing success rate allowed, which, if you don't know success rate, it's a great metric. It's very simple. Our friend Parker Fleming at StatsOWar on Twitter does it every week. The net success rates, just overall success rates of each team, the differences. He titles it the how bad did we or the did we really get beat that bad? And you'll see teams, that have like a 10 point advantage in success rate over a team, but they'll still lose because they were better on a per play basis, but they just had turnovers or bad luck or whatever else, and they lost the football game. Which A&M was on the higher end this week. They had a 19 point advantage in terms of success rate points, percentage points. But, you know, of 135 teams with very little data to go off of, 26th, pretty good. We weren't that high last year, I'll tell you that right now. Even with the bad or the not great showings against UTSA, overall we are pretty good about limiting the run. So success rate. Sorry, let me back up. Success rate is defined by getting 50% of the yards required for a first down on first down. So it's first and 10, you get 5 yards. That's successful. If you get 4 or less or whatever else, that's not successful. So that's either a 1 or a 0 in that case. Second down is 70%. Third down is 100%. So getting a conversion. Fourth down, same thing. There's a great article on it. Just Google college football success rates. We're 26. I think they're up to like 13 or 16 now after the domination against Auburn. But guess what? Like, I was right. we were already a like pretty good run defense. This Saturday they were really good. They were really damn good, and they held Auburn to by far their lowest success rate rushing on rushing their rushing offense of the whole season. So sorry for the rant, but that's it's not the end all be all. Like our success rate on offense is kind of middle of the road, but we hit so many big plays that it doesn't really matter right now. It will matter. We need to get better. When I say consistency, I'm talking about success rate. Like, hey, eat up more yards on first and second down, put yourself in good spots, and then you will convert better than 3 of 14 on third down. Also, if I didn't mention, A&M held Auburn to 0 of 15, 0 for 15 on third and fourth down. That is an elite performance by your defense, especially in a conference game. Also, Kyle Field was incredible on Saturday. I hadn't been to a 2:30 game in a couple years. I went to Missouri last year, which was 11, and then I went to LSU, which was a night game. Notre Dame was a night game. 2:30. It was, the first, obviously the SEC opener, the first, power team that we played at home. I think it ended up being like fifth in attendance historically for A&M, which is, I feel like we set records every year. We just keep just pump more people in there. But it was loud. The students were great. The crowd was great. They had like 3 or 4 false starts. It was awesome. So big tip of the cap to the 12th man. But Mississippi State, so easily the most improved team in the conference from last year. Last year they had a new coach, Jeff Lebby. They weren't very talented. Quarterback goes down for the year very early. They have a true freshman the rest of the way. I mean, what do they go, like 2-10? They lost to Toledo, I think by a lot too. At the beginning of last year, when they even had their quarterback still. So I mean, just all around bad. And then season ends, and Missouri takes their number one receiver. Obviously, A&M takes Mario Craver. LSU takes the quarterback that did start down the stretch, Van Buren. Just like so many like good players leave, and you're like, man, how the heck do you come back from that? Like, you just had an awful first year. Some of your best players, leave you, and you can't really go and find better ones. Like, they went and found guys that they liked, but that's just so hard to improve and to be, put out a quality football team. But props to that coaching staff over there. They've really figured some stuff out, especially offensively. I think, Jeff Lebby's an air raid guy. Like, he came from, I think the Bryles tree at some point, was at Oklahoma a couple years ago. But they they run the football really, really well. I think this is a bigger test than Auburn was with regards to our run defense. If we're for real, then we're going to find out Saturday because they've got two really good running backs. Number six, Davin Booth, and the guy that I think will be an NFL player in a couple years when he's eligible. And number 24, Fluff Bothwell. He's a stud. There's no way around it. He's a stud running back. I thought, man, like, why are you going to Mississippi State? Like, they're not going to be good. And he's having a great year for them. He had some really tough physical runs against Tennessee this past weekend, and they got some speed too with those guys too. So where they killed Tennessee was these outside runs, and Tennessee just could not adjust to it or figure it out. Like their defensive end would just get caught inside and lose the edge every single time, and you know, like they spread you out, and you're like, oh my gosh, like trying to like worry about the pass, but they create so much space that way to where if they get past you on the edge, like they're picking up chunk yardage, and they did it all day against Tennessee. Back and forth game, home game for Mississippi State, and they almost pulled it out. I mean, it went to overtime, and Tennessee ended up winning, but yeah, I mean, I think Shapen is he's not a great quarterback, but he's efficient. He can be you know can be accurate with the ball. They don't ask a lot of him. I was trying to watch the game earlier tonight, and it wasn't until like the fourth or fifth drive where he actually made a real read. Most of it was just like, oh, screen here, screen there, trick play or hand the ball off. Just not a whole lot to it, but they have some nice receivers. Well, so one thing that bodes well for A&M is it's a home game. Obviously, if this was in Starkville, I'd be pissed off about that because we don't play well over there. They play us well when we go over there, and they're good enough to beat A&M if it was played over there. Being at Kyle Field, being at night, blackout, I feel pretty good about things, and also they've got some big time injuries. Their right tackle has been out, I think, since week one. I think he's out for the year. Their best defensive lineman has been out since week one. I think his last name is Whitson. He's also out this game. Their leading tackler left the game against Tennessee. He's questionable. The starting left tackle, I believe, Albert Reese, he's questionable. He left the game and was in a sling after the game. May not play. We'll see. And then Brennan Thompson, the receiver, who's very good, had the game winner against Arizona State. I think he broke a finger or something, and they have him as probable, so we'll see how that goes. But all in all, like I don't know if they played a road game yet. Someone said this is a crazy stat. This is Blake Shapen's first SEC road game because he was hurt. I think he played one conference game last year, and then they haven't left their home field this year. So that's going to be tough for him coming into that kind of environment. But on offense, they do some things that can have success against A&M. It's a great test for us to see. Hey, these backs are better than what Auburn has. They're not the Notre Dame guys, but no one is. But they're good running backs. They run that system, really, really well. If you force them into obvious passing downs, you can sack this quarterback. He got sacked, I don't know, probably half dozen times against Tennessee. But defensively is where this should be a bounce back for A&M. A&M's offense can definitely push their front around quite a bit. That's like from going from Auburn to this defense I think it's a significant downgrade. Auburn's got like big defensive tackles. They don't move well, but they're big guys, hard to move. Physical linebackers. I mean, Atkins, number 10, or number 0, which is all over the place. the edges are very good for Auburn. Crawford and Falk. Mississippi State just doesn't really have those kind of guys. And maybe Whitson is that guy, but he's out. So Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, Reuben Owens, they should all get theirs on the ground, and this offensive line should really be able to bully them quite a bit in the run game. They don't really, they do a good job with blitzes. They're very aggressive at times, but like straight up pass rush, they don't really have a guy that's going to really scare you. In the secondary, they play pretty soft in the back end, so maybe not the deep balls. I know, or I like Marcel. You want him to connect on one of these deep passes, like one of these 40+ yarders to KC, and hit a big play. And I know he's capable of it. I was listening to Stephen McGee on Texas, and he's like, I think it's a timing thing. I think if he sees it earlier, he can, kind of put more air under it and a little more loft. But when he sees it late, he's just got to kind of rip it. And there's a smaller margin for error, or sorry, a greater margin for error when you do that. Like, you're probably not gonna hit your target if you have to, just really zip it out there like that. But I say all that to say it probably won't be this game where you hit one of those deep ones. But I mean, Marcel should be able to really just carve them up, with Casey and Craver. It was good to see Bethel Roman have a big catch. I still want to see him and either him or Terry Bussey really get involved. Like maybe have a 4 or 5 catch game for 80 yards and a touchdown, something like that. I think A&M can really score on this team, but man, 14.5 is a big line for a conference game. I know it's at home. I would not bet this game, but they can. I mean, like A&M, if they win 38-10, 40, 45-17, I will not be shocked. But I want to see that before I go and put harder money on it. But that's all I really got on Mississippi State. This should be a win. The next 3 weeks, you could not draw it up better. You have a home game where you're favored by 2 scores, a home game next week where Florida can't move the football at all with their offense. The defense is banged up, and it's a home game. You go to Arkansas where you're not getting them right after they make the change, right? If we played Arkansas this weekend when the interim, like when Petrino just took over, I would not like that playing up there. But now, like, you have a few weeks for that, like, initial, that dead cat bounce for that to wear off by the time you go up there. And Petrino took over and day one fired the entire defensive staff. And I just can't imagine, the Notre Dame defense everybody was crapping on. And how about this? So through the first 3 games, everyone's like, oh my gosh, Taylon Green, Arkansas, what an amazing offense. Taylon Green's so good. They're the best offense in the SEC. And the team that we put 41 on the road, they scored 13 on at home and fired their coach. So I don't want to hear it. They're not very good. A&M should win that football game. So you have that stretch of 3 games, and then LSU on the road. Circle it. It's been circled. It's a big game. I think. Oh, I was rattling off their schedule earlier. They have to play Vanderbilt. They have to go to Nashville, where Notre Dame is where Vanderbilt is finally selling out their own stadium with their own fans, not opposing fans, and play Diego Pavia and the Commodores before the week before they host A&M. So it's interesting, man. It's really interesting, and then you get a bye, and then you regroup, and who knows? It's very exciting. If you're not excited, you should be. Don't be burned by years past because we're all kind of scarred from that, but just have fun. It's one of those years, man. It's a fun year. Have fun. To round out the rest of our thoughts here, yeah, I mean, yeah, like I got some eyes on Bama, Georgia. I still don't know. I feel like we don't really know anything about anyone this year. I think Ohio State and Oregon are pretty like they're pretty good. I think Penn State is still a good team, even though they lost. But double overtime. It's. But I don't know how good Bama is. I don't know how good Georgia really is. I do know that they're not what they were even 3 years ago, 4 years ago. They're not those teams at all. I think those teams would beat the crap out of this version of Bama and Georgia. So yeah, I mean, it's a weird year, man. Indiana plays Oregon next week, not this week, but next week. That's super interesting. This week has some decent games. Also, sorry to recap last weekend. Great news for A&M's playoff hopes. Even at 10-2, you're very likely in, but you just never know. But good to see Florida State get a loss to Virginia. Also good to see TCU go down. They were, I think ranked 24, undefeated Big 12 team. And then who else? Somebody else too. Maybe it's LSU I'm thinking of, but we kind of already knew that. Georgia Tech squeaked one out in overtime against Wake Forest. USC was the other one. USC lost to Illinois. They were undefeated. I think they're kind of banged up. I think Jacoby Lane, the big receiver that torched us in the bowl game, I think he's been hurt. But that's one where their schedule for the Big Ten is not super tough, and they could have kind of gone 10-2 and snuck their way in. I don't see that happening now. Keeping tabs on Louisville. There's going to be another ACC team that they try to push in there. It's TBD, but you just watch these undefeated Big 12 and ACC teams the next couple weeks and see who starts dropping. Do those leagues get more than one team? Do they get two teams? Someone besides the conference winner. We'll see. This weekend is not the best slate. Honestly, speaking of Big 12, really intrigued by number 14 Iowa State going to Cincinnati. That's got big implications in the Big 12. Georgia's going to wax Kentucky. They may score 100 if they want to. Michigan, Wisconsin, if you're into that kind of thing. Clemson at North Carolina in the We Are Ass Bowl. 230 is decent. Yeah, Texas, Florida, and Bama, Vanderbilt. Both very interesting. The advanced stats love Vanderbilt right now because they've just run it up on really crappy teams. Which how about this at halftime against Utah State, A&M was up 30-6. I think Vanderbilt was up like 28-21 or like 21-14. So I think they're good. They're a good quality SEC team, but they're not. We're going to find out this Saturday if they beat Bama on the road, which I'm pretty sure that's where game day is. But I don't see that happening. It would be great. It'd be hilarious if that happened. But I don't know if Vanderbilt is quite that caliber. I think they're a little bit of a product of just really rubbing it in against some of the teams they played. Virginia, Louisville, also 230. Virginia ranked 24th after the big win over Florida State. Louisville's kind of on that cusp of like they're 4-0, close to being ranked. That one's big for the ACC. Texas, Florida. The total is 41.5. Give me the under all day long. Neither team can score. I don't know how. I'll be honest. Like I think Texas wins this game. I don't know how Florida scores any points. They haven't been able to do it against anybody. And Texas has a really good defense. So yeah, that's tough. But yeah, Texas Tech at Houston. That could be spicy. Connor Wigman, can he ruin the Red Raiders' hopes? I doubt it. And then Miami, Florida State. Miami, you know, this would have had bigger stakes had Florida State won last week, but it's still big. It's still important, but I just think that Miami will, you know, the spread's 4.5. I take the Hurricanes. I think you know, they're really really good on both sides of the ball. They should just kind of plow their way through the ACC. And then who else was down here? Colorado TCU. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, just a good old college football Saturday. Nothing too special, but some really big ones the next weekend. But we'll get to that then. But in the meantime, appreciate you guys very much as always for tuning in. This says we've got 5 live listeners on YouTube. That's amazing. You guys are great. Cannot thank you enough, and you know, appreciate you tagging along. If you're going to the game, wear black, yell loud, and beat the hell out of Mississippi State. We'll talk to you next week.